Hello and welcome to which Doctor Incarnations I think should return. Now honestly this was quite a hard video to title and thumbnail try and get, because I think I've got a really cool concept for this video, but I struggled to explain it, so here's what I mean. There have been 15 different incarnations if you ignore the Timeless Child stuff, but I can't really add that kind of stuff here, of the Doctor. And obviously you could rank those Doctors as your favourites. I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm ranking them on how much I'd like to see those incarnations return. Now, this list includes a factor of many things. The status of the actors, how recently they've reappeared in the show, and yes, certain personal biases, because guess what? If they're not my favourite Doctor, I'm less likely to want to see them return, if that makes sense. Anyway, I thought it was an interesting video concept. Give your lists in the comments below, and let's get cracking. Now, at 15, I've gone with John Hurt's War Doctor. Honestly, this to me just makes complete and utter sense as the only Doctor that I would actively say I don't want to see them ever return. Mainly because, unfortunately, the actor has passed away, and that mixed with the fact that there aren't tons of stories you can tell with the War Doctor, I honestly think at a certain point, if you brought back the War Doctor, it would be mildly disrespectful to the memory of John Hurt. Not only is the character so entrenched into what John Hurt was, but you'd be bringing back the character unnecessarily, and I wouldn't be for that. So John Hurt is dead last at 15th, because I think we should just respect what he did for the show. At number 14, I've gone with Tom Baker, aka the 4th Doctor. Now, the big reason for this is some people might say 10 or 11, but the 4th Doctor is the most iconic Doctor of Doctor Who. And therefore, Tom Baker is very synonymous with the role. And honestly, as I'll get into, there are some other incarnations that I'm happy for a recast on. Tom Baker isn't one of those incarnations. The 4th Doctor, for me, should always be played by Tom Baker, just because of how iconic he is in the scarf and in the role. And I can't lie, Tom Baker deserves to be left alone now. He's at an age where he's quite frail, looking a little bit ill, and not gonna lie, the bloke deserves to rest and shouldn't have to come back to Doctor Who. If he wants to, brilliant. I think, honestly, this is a life-related reason. I think Tom Baker and the 4th Doctor in general is an incarnation that probably shouldn't return to the show for those reasons. At 13th, we've got William Hartnell's 1st Doctor, so David Bradley, all of that jazz, the 1st incarnation. Now, obviously, this is a fantastic incarnation of the Doctor, and I've always enjoyed seeing David Bradley in his couple of Doctor Who appearances. But if you're talking about who I'm most excited to see return, I think we've done all we can with this incarnation. Obviously, the original actor has died, and we've done a documentary with David Bradley, we've done a full episode where the gimmick is we're doing the 1st Doctor again, and we've done a more fun cameo appearance. We've done a lot of what you can do with this Doctor, so while yes, you could bring him back and it would be fun, there are more Doctors I'm excited to see just because we've kind of fulfilled the 1st Doctor's potential. At number 12, we have Patrick Troughton. Now, I love Patrick Troughton, I really love his incarnation, but this one is a bit of an interesting one. Because it does feel cruel to place him here, and to be fair, I'd be excited to see any candidates on this list come back because I love Doctor Who and I love these incarnations. But let's not pretend that Patrick Troughton didn't come back multiple times through the classic series, all in really successful appearances, but we've done the whole the 2nd Doctor comes back. And for me, I only really want to recast a Doctor who has passed away if we really need to. We didn't need to with John Hurt. I'm not sure we need to with Patrick Troughton. Now at number 11, we've got Colin Baker. The 6th Doctor is one of those weird ones where it went through a stage where honestly you could watch any lists of who's your least favourite Doctor. Colin Baker would probably be a lot of people's answers, and then some people have rediscovered him through Big Finish. I'm kind of in this stage where I'm I really don't mind Colin Baker. I think he's a perfectly fine Doctor. He's really not one of my favourites. And Big Finish exists for people who, like him and love him and want to discover more of him. I think that's enough. He wouldn't spark that kind of massive excitement for me, personally, as a fan of the show. And he's already come back as well in The Power of the Doctor in a really nice, fun little cameo. And to me, that's kind of okay with me. And I'm kind of good with that. Again, if he was to come into the show, I really wouldn't mind, but yeah, it's not going to be one of those castings that makes me go, yes, the Sixth Doctor is back, woo! 10th, I've gone with David Tennant. I know you guys might be shocked, because David Tennant is, you know, one of my favourite incarnations. But the concept of this video is, what Doctors do I want to see return the most? We already know that David is going to be returning in the 60th, therefore the 60th doesn't really factor into this, because I'm talking about Doctors we don't know that's going to return yet, if that makes sense. But honestly, because of that fact, there are so many other Doctors that, if it came to it, I would like to see return more than David Tennant. Now, does this mean I'd ever say no to a David Tennant reappearance in Doctor Who? Absolutely not. And in fact, this is very recency biasy, because in 10 years, David Tennant will probably shoot back up this list just because he's my favourite incarnation and I love him so much. Right now, I think there are much better candidates to come back, so therefore that's why he's so low down. 9th is Sylvester McCoy. Now, this is an incarnation that I really enjoy, but it definitely just isn't one of my favourites. I can't sit here and pretend I'm this massive Sylvester McCoy fan. So while it's perfectly feasible for him to return like he did in Power of the Doctor, he's not one of those incarnations that would garner this massive excitement from me. Again, it would be a lot of fun, it's definitely possible, and I do think they can add some things to the character, like I think his appearance in Power of the Doctor and his interaction with Ace was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it, but this one wouldn't send me mad wild with excitement. At number 8, we've got Peter Davison, with quite similar reasons to Sylvester McCoy. Look, this is a Doctor I really like and really enjoy, and I'd love to see him back. You know, is he a Doctor that I love and adore his era from? No, not really, and therefore I wouldn't be like really buzzing to see him back. But I think, again, his scenes in Power of the Doctor were immaculate, and overall it would be a lot of fun to see him come back. There are just candidates that I would genuinely prefer. Number 7 is going to be Peter Capaldi. Now, yes, a lot of people are going to want Peter Capaldi higher, and I would love to see Peter Capaldi come back. But honestly, there are reasons for me why he is my least high modern Doctor, ignoring the obvious case of John Hurt. A big one being his era kind of feels quite self-contained. Yes, you have the character of Clara, but actually, his era doesn't... It's not a Doctor you feel like you would really want to see them, you know, interact with others in like a multi-Doctor special, for example. Like, I'd have much more passion in, say, seeing 11 and 13 interact than 12 I would have with any other Doctors. So while I'd love to see him return, for me, he doesn't spark that passion like some other Doctors higher up this list do, but I completely understand if he'd be higher up your list, because honestly, he's, you know, I wish I could put him higher. Number 6 is going to be Jodie Whittaker. Now, one of the big reasons why this isn't higher is because she's left the show very recently, and honestly, I feel like in 10 years, if she hasn't returned already, because I genuinely think she will, she would probably be 1 or 2 or 3. Well, yeah, 2 or 3, depending on who's returned since. I think Jodie Whittaker is not only a fantastic actress, but a fantastic incarnation of the Doctor. I would love to see her return. And yes, this statement can get a bit controversial, but not only would I love to see her interact with other Doctors in a multi-Doctor special, but yes, I'd like to see her under a different writer, because I would be very interested to see if a different writer with a different style can bring more out of her, because yes, sometimes I do think Jodie was stuck with a lot of exposition dialogue and some silly one-liners that weren't always very good. I also think the fact that she has been very enthusiastic about saying, yes, no, I'd happily come back. I think at one point she was literally quoted saying, I would be irritated if they didn't ask me back at some point. That's so lovely to have that love for the show. That's lovely, and that endears me to her even more, and yeah. Jodie, come back anytime. We love you. We love you. Number 5, surprisingly to some, would actually be Jo Martin. Now, if you'd have told me there's a Doctor incarnation that we've barely seen, has had not much character development, and actually has a complete plot line that could be told, you'd be baffled. Yet Jo Martin is that. And again, I'm not trying to slander Chris Chibnall here, but he created this interesting character and then did nothing with said character. I think there's such potential here, and I'd love to see this character return. At number 4, I've gone with Jon Pertwee's third Doctor. Now yes, I know, unfortunately, Jon Pertwee has passed away, and therefore he can't reprise the role himself. But just like David Bradley has done with the first Doctor, I think this is such a fantastic candidate for a new actor to try and take on the role in like an anniversary special or something and breathe new life into it. Yes, a lot of this is my own fan nostalgia for Jon Pertwee as a Doctor. He's my favourite classic Doctor. He's probably second to David Tennant for my favourite overall Doctor. I love Jon Pertwee, and especially as there's such a perfect candidate like Sean Pertwee, his son, to take over the role, I just think Jon Pertwee would be the perfect Doctor to come back, especially because he only came back once in the 5 Doctors, in like official Doctor Who things, and I think he's such a fun incarnation that will also really translate well to modern Who. I think there's lots of interesting things you could do with that Doctor, a really unique, interesting take, and I'd love to see him return. At number 3, we've got Paul McGann. Now this is the candidate that just makes so much sense for them to come back. Because yes, you can say whatever you like about Big Finish. Big Finish, while I enjoy and I like dip in and out of it, it doesn't fully satisfy me as a fan. And therefore, Paul McGann has really only ever had a TV movie and a short. Those things are both, well, the TV movie's fine, the short is really, really good. I need more Paul McGann. Look, it doesn't matter to me whether it's in an anniversary special or in a TV spin-off. Give us more Paul McGann, please. He'd still be up for it. He still looks great. He's still ready and raring to go. Please, I beg, give us more Paul McGann. It just makes sense. At number 2, we have Christopher Eccleston. Again, a massive part of this is that we have not had enough time with the 9th Doctor at all. I love this character, I love this incarnation, and I really feel like a lot of Doctors grew into their roles even more. Like, imagine if Christopher Eccleston was on a Series 3 and was just completely knocking it out the park with more character development, more storylines. Like, Christopher Eccleston really could have gotten the Peter Capaldi treatment and been some people's, like, ultimate favourite Doctors. Yes, I completely realise it was very unlikely that he is ever going to do it. I understand that. This is very much a hypothetical list, but I can't lie, it's an incarnation that I'd love to see, and I also think there could be some fantastic interactions in, say, a multi-Doctor story with the 9th Doctor and other candidates. That's why I'd love to see it. But for me, number 1 has to be Matt Smith. I think for me, Matt Smith ticks all the boxes of a Doctor return. He hasn't returned before, therefore a return would be exciting and fresh. No, I'm not counting series, like episode 1 of Series 8. Yes, it's technically a return, but not in that way. It was lovely, but not in that way. So he hasn't returned yet, really. The actor, the original actor, would still be available to fully fulfill that role. He's one of my personal favourite Doctors. I love Matt Smith's Doctor, so that would add to things. Overall, there is no little part of me that goes, and he wants to come back. He's been less sure about it than someone like a Jodie Whittaker or a David Tennant, but he's never said that he doesn't want to come back, and has always said, you know, if the right thing came along, I mean, oh yeah, because there was that interview clip of him going, Morbius going, if you were offered to, you know, do a Jared Leto sequel, or if you were offered to go back to Doctor Who, which would you pick? Doctor Who. He loves Doctor Who. That's brilliant. Let's make it happen. We've got to get Matt Smith back at some point. It ticks all the boxes. It would just be fantastic. Thank you very, very much for watching. What are your opinions? I feel like this is a video that could spark some opinions. Leave them all in the comments below, even if it's just like a top 5 or a bottom 5, 3, and yeah. Also, please subscribe. We are on the journey to 1,000 subscribers. It would mean the world to me if you could join me on that journey. There is another video here. Please click it. Please click it, because then you stay on this YouTube channel and you don't give your watch time to some other poxy YouTuber. Even though that YouTuber is probably quite nice.